Hi, and welcome to the City Sculptors Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Williams. I am also the Director of Operations for 12th Street Heritage Development Corporation, but for the past 4 years, I have been immersed in the real estate and development world. That journey led me to this podcast, the City Sculptors. Here, we take a look behind the curtain and we talk to business owners, city leaders, construction workers, realtors, and developers, and we see what does this world really look like and how a city is shaped. So if you've ever wondered, what she does seems kind of fun, or, hey, I want to make a difference in my community and be a city leader, listen and subscribe and hit like, because here, me, you, and anybody listening can be a city sculptor. Hi, and welcome back to the City Sculptors Podcast. I am your host, Alexis Williams, and today we are joined by Mr. Malik Yoba, activist, actor, and developer. So thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Is there anything else I left off of the list? It's a lot.
Yeah, it should. I gave you a look.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? You caught that? Damn,
what else did I miss?
Sneaky, shady.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's okay. I'll bring it up later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's.
Because if I say it sounds,
I always say brag on yourself. If you don't, who else is going to?
You're going to.
Okay. Period.
So
okay.
It's Dr. Malik Yoba.
Dr. Malik Yoba. There you go. See
that? Who bragged?
I picked it up. I was looking at the
shady
Dr. Malik Yoba.
Give a side eye.
Add that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So most of our viewers know you from Hollywood. We got to meet you at a development conference. And so what made you go from Hollywood to development?
Growing up in New York City in the 70s and 80s, I was born in the rubble, I like to say, South Bronx.
Okay.
So if you see any of the old images of New York in the 60s and 70s, it didn't look too pretty.
Yeah.
And so growing up in those environments, I thought about, growing up in those environments and then being exposed to other environments,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you grew up in Harlem or the Bronx, and then you were around abandoned buildings or empty lots or pissing mattresses and dope fiend needles, and you could think that's normal. But then you go downtown and see museums and galleries and people living on Park Avenue or Fifth Avenue, right? And you say, wait, what's the difference?
Right.
Why is it like this where we live? And so it started for me as a kid, just growing up and saying, why does the neighborhood have to look like this? And I want to do something about it. So it actually was not Hollywood that came first in terms of how I was thinking about these things. So growing up in Harlem, so I was born in the South Bronx, but then moved to Harlem. And where we lived, although the hood is around us, we actually lived in affordable co-ops, right?
Okay.
So there's a program in state called Mitchell-Lama. It was named after two Congress people that fought to do affordable ownership. And so there's a number of developments in New York. So ours was developed from the time I was 8 years old, or I think 7 years old, I lived in this development. It was affordable co-ops, and it was luxury in the middle of the hood.
Yeah.
So we had a duplex apartment, we had a gym downstairs and a health club and Olympic-sized pool and sauna in the 70s in Harlem. And so growing up in that environment, and my father was on the board, so it was 1199 Hospital Workers Union that was the sponsor of that development. And so grew up with my father, and we were the first family to move in. It opened in January of 1975. Mm-hmm. We moved in November of 74. Because my father was on the board, okay. He would work for the union. He knew about the development, not just of that, but also what he always talked about, the 20-year plan for Harlem. And so we grew up with a sense of how communities are built and how they exclude certain people.
Yeah.
And so the dream actually started very, very young.
Very young.
Yeah.
And I love that you were exposed so young to that. And so is that where your passion comes from with teaching young people before they even graduate high school? Is that kind of, they need to know young or?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. But yeah, so I also had a passion for education. So
Okay.
I started tutoring kids when I was 16 in after school programs. And a lot of my passion for education came because I was the problem kid, according to the teacher, right? So even as a kid, I felt like you don't really know how to teach a kid like me. And not that I was consciously like trying to test them, but I definitely didn't appreciate a lot of the way I was treated as a little black boy.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you're targeted just because of who you are, right?
Yeah.
And the numbers show that. Like, who are the kids that are put in special ed because they told they act out, right? And so so I had a passion for education from a long time. And that led to opportunities to work with young people. So started in after-school programs as a 16-year-old. By 20, I was working with a group called the City Kids Foundation.
Okay.
And we used art to educate and to empower young people. So like this podcast would have been, if there was a thing back in the day, would have been hosted by 17-year-olds. Right,
I love that,
giving them an opportunity to like find their voice, use art, whether it was music or dance or acting or whatever. And so that organization was all about bringing kids together cross-culturally, using art to engage them, help them find their voice, make impact in the community. So that work had me in 13 different high schools, helping to reduce the dropout rate because we were going with a theater company, inspire the other kids to say, if you like what you saw, meet us at 3:00 in this room, and they'd come and we'd help them find their voices. And so, and then they would have real impact on the city, right? Change the way that, you know, school classes were taught or who was teaching them or, you know, contributed to how school environment might be transformed. And so that work in education and mashing up art into it. When I got into development, the teacher in me and the artist in me doesn't die.
Yeah, of course.
So you say, all right, I'm going to find a way to use art to engage young people around the built environment. So the first thing we did was a doc series about my journey pursuing my first development deal, right? How I was able to use film to teach young people and to take that into schools, take that into community. And just by using film, and of course, as an actor, I know the power of film.
Yes.
It was a way to do all of that, right? I could bring young people into the fold because I'd use them, and not use them, but invited them on the journey when I was shooting the documentary. So they got to participate in it. They got to learn in real time, meeting developers and meeting, you know, people, designers and people in finance and politicians. So including young people in the actual creation of the content, then distributing that content back into the world. I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't about the work I did with City Kids. So so that's a long answer to your question about how young people are included in everything. Because I was that young person.
I was too.
That's someone, exactly. So you know, firsthand.
Yes. Very firsthand.
Did you realize, was it voluntary for you or did your dad just make you do it?
A little bit of both.
He's right there. So he's right behind the cameras.
A little bit of both, but I do think it helps you grow. And you spoke about, you know.
How old were you, by the way, when you first was getting involved?
Oh, I think I've been involved since I was like 3 or 4.
Right.
Since I could talk.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and not having that option and being forced to do it, you appreciate it later in life, I will say. My
father used to say, you're going to hate me as a kid, but love me as an adult.
Yes. Stick by that sentiment.
Yeah.
Definitely agree with that one. But we talk about the creative outlet that you have given youth and for people who look like us, how in school systems, you know, sometimes it isn't, it's uncomfortable.
Which part?
With teachers.
Oh, as a student?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we talk about how it's uncomfortable. So as we get older, and especially in the development world, I'm sure you face this, I face this. What are some of the barriers that you see for minority developers, even as you become an adult and as you try to get into this industry?
I think my barriers are multi-faceted. I think the first real estate we own is in our mind. right? So I say that all the time, and that's where we have to invest. That's where we have to gentrify. It's where we got to develop, right? The mental capacity, number one, to believe that you can even do it.
Yeah.
To believe that you have a place in this world, even though other obstacles like lack of capital, lack of being resourced, lack of, network, all of those things make it challenging because you need bankers, you need people on the political side, you need to know contractors, you need designers, you need engineers, you need GC. So you need all those things, and you have to build those relationships. But, I don't really focus personally on the barriers because you got to be half crazy to do it anyway. So you got to lose your mind, lose your fear, lose the doubt, but it's real. Like it's, talking to your dad on the way over here, right? Looking even just some acquisitions right now in New York, and, there's a shortfall of capital. And so I have to go to my network and start asking people like, hey, this is what we're working on. Do you want to participate? And, You
said that really nicely, but when you have a dream and and I know it doesn't pencil out on paper, how do you communicate your dream and your...
I love that. So, because the acquisitions I'm talking about, 2 of them are community spaces.
And they don't really make
and the guy I'm talking to, he does strictly multifamily.
Yep.
But I know that the person who introduced me to him introduced him to a couple of opportunities, one of which dude netted $16 million tax-free because of the advice of my friend. And he never asked him for any money. He never said, hey, man, I didn't, you didn't promote, as it's called, right?
Yeah.
Where you're the person that's, sort of in the deal just because I brought the opportunity to you. And you still get that interest in that. But he... So I was basically strong-arming dude. Like,
you got to. That's what I wanted to get to. No, you got to.
No, what I said to him, I said, hey, yes, we both love the guy that introduced us. Amazing human, right? Yeah, I've done a lot of good deals with him. He's made a lot. I was like, I know you made a lot of money. I know you made a lot of money with him, but I know he never asked you for anything. But he introduced me to you because he thought you'd be the guy that could support what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we don't really do that. We do this. I was like, and then, I was like, well, look, I'm in the middle of a lot of traffic because I'm all over this country and around the world in these real estate spaces, pursuing opportunity, building network, right?
Yeah.
And so as he's saying that, your dad walked up. I was like, in fact, there's an opportunity that might be in Kansas City right now.
Yeah. I
said, how much money you need? You need $20 million for you? Hey, man, so I'm talking with a guy right now that needs $20 million. So, can you, he said, send me the deal. I'll send it to my underwriter. But that's how relationships work. It's like, I know you need something. So I didn't come to him just like, hey, I'm looking for something from you. I said, I want to make you more money.
Yeah. And
this could be a ticket to entry. It may not be what you normally do, but consider this because I could bring a lot of other opportunity to you.
Yes.
I'm just not asking you to invest in something that I know means a lot more to me. These particular assets in Brooklyn were owned by a leader in the community without putting up all the business, but she's someone who had a significant role. She worked in healthcare. She developed, bought these assets. One is a theater, an old church that was converted into a theater. And, she presented plays for the community because she knew that using theater to teach people about medicine and, so one could be a condo project, the other 2 more for community. But what Yoba Development does in terms of how do we create space for community to also learn.
Right.
In this particular deal, it's not just about let's be transactional.
Yeah, let's make
and because it's not about this. This is a small investment. It's $3 million I'm talking to him about. We've got 6.5. We need 9 and change to acquire these properties to do good for the community, because the narrative around Yoba Development being able to build something or acquire these properties that are about to be sold off in surrogate court because the second generation that they were bequeathed to couldn't manage them, which is a problem in our community. We could talk about what other folks do, but if you don't have that relationship with your dad to teach you how to do this work, how to care for it, how to plan for it, how to sustain it, that's on us.
Yeah.
We can't blame nobody but us if we're not teaching our kids. I don't blame, the matriarch in that family, but I see what happened with that second generation. And so the other best offer on this deal is somebody that doesn't look like us. And so being able to acquire these properties is more than just what's the financial benefit for me and my family, but what is the benefit for the community. In fact, I was standing in front of one of the properties, the theater, and a woman walks by, and I'm with the head of DASNY, which is the Domicile Authority of New York's largest bank for public projects in the state.
Okay.
So he came down and brought a senator and assemblywoman with him because he wants to help fund that project. Now, we don't have site control yet. We don't even own them yet, but I put it on his radar. This is what I'm working on.
Right.
I want to know that I can get public monies to be a part of this. So while we're talking in front of the building, a woman walks by and goes, I've been trying to get Spike Lee to get this theater and Spike's office is in the neighborhood where I live in Brooklyn. And, and I'm glad you here because my son used to take dance classes here and all of a sudden they went away. And she goes on and on telling her story of woe about how what used to be isn't anymore. Can you help? That's why I want this property to be able to provide that for young people in the community, but not just the arts, but also teach them about the business. So the opportunity to run our education programs that we run at the high school level, college level, but have real projects in real time that those students could also participate in, which is not what most developers do. They're not thinking about these things.
Yeah. I have two follow-up questions. The first one being...
You got to interrupt me because I'll go on and on and on.
Oh, no. I mean...
Interject.
Listen, we love listening. Being you are an artist, for most developers, we pencil on paper. We know our numbers. We can look at something and say. But as an artist, I feel like sometimes you guys have a different passion. How do you look at projects differently than most, especially when it comes to revitalizing communities, making sure gentrification doesn't happen? You could do a development and partner just with somebody, like you said, who doesn't look like us, but you want to restore your community. How do you kind of balance, like, sometimes artists can kind of go above and beyond and think way outside the box. How do you kind of balance the two?
I'm still working on that.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, things have to pencil out. They have to make sense on paper. But I think also one of the things I've learned as an artist, I try to, and I say try, I don't use that word a lot, but what I endeavor to do when I talk to my artist friends is help them understand that how we think creatively has space in this world.
Yes.
Because if you are most people, when they think of development, they think of construction workers, right? They're not thinking about before you even get site control, like can you get land cheap and can you run those numbers?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the square footage? What can I build here? What are those returns going to be? What is the market asking for? All that, market study work. That
your performer.
Right. That's part of it, right? What are your projections going to be? So there's that. But there's also the story around that. And so when you talk to people, especially if you're trying to get people on your team, some people are just going to respond to numbers. Some people are going to respond because there's some personal reason, or I grew up in this neighborhood, I've always wanted to do something here, or I didn't get a chance to do, whatever the reasons are. But storytelling is always going to be part of that. Creativity is going to be part of that. And so, yes, you can have pie in the sky ideas. Like, I know I bring very creative ideas to this space that isn't always driven by numbers, right? It's driven by either a sense of purpose or a sense of passion, but passion without precision is chaos. So we can't just be passionate. Yeah. It's got to also make sense. And sometimes, like in these acquisitions, like, it's personal because all of them I have my eye on because they're in my neighborhood for years. And then they were sent to me. A broker said, I love what you're doing in the community. These things are for sale. We think Yoba Development would know what to do with them. We don't want them to go to these other folks that are just going to build housing or whatever. But because there's still a community need. Now, does that make obvious sense if you're just trying to pencil it out? Two, how do you do a pro forma on a community space? You have to have anchor tenants, and you know what I mean? There are many more variables. It's not like we can divide this up into X amount of units and per square foot we can get this. But I still believe in what we're doing because this isn't the only thing to do. You can do this plus other things. Yes. And at the end of the day, you still have valuable assets.
Yes.
Right? And you can sell them off if I needed to.
And so you speak about, I think we all, as developers, we all have one project that we've looked at and we're like, it's a passion project. All of us have had some. If you've been in it long enough, you have some that you've made zero money off of, but you just did it just because it was the right thing to do in that community for that time. I know we've had a project like that. And a community engagement outside of yourself and you saying, hey, I want to do this project for this neighborhood. Community engagement is something that is big in the development space. And it's not just about hosting town hall meetings and showing up only because you need so many votes from the community. How do you tell people to really get involved in their neighborhood? Especially, you're famous.
To some.
Okay. To some, I feel like so. To me, and probably most of our viewers, but you're still in the community. How do you balance that? And I know you said you started when you were young with your dad, but even
I didn't start development. I started thinking about these things. I didn't actually start in my journey in development until 2007.
And so from 2007 to, what it has become today, how do you still stay grounded and involved in your community?
Well, is it nature or nurture? I think it's a little bit of both. I've never been a person that... See, I'm lying because when I bought my first property, I didn't buy in my community. I was bougie. I was part of the bourgeoisie. No, look.
If I hit the lottery, I won't say anything, but there will be signs. Right. There'll be signs. So
you must have hit the lottery. I see you all fancy and glittery. So one, I'm community minded and oriented, so that's definitely part of how we were nurtured. But I didn't always live in Brooklyn. I lived in LA. I lived in the Hollywood Hills. I lived by the ocean. So I've lived in different places. But when I came back to Brooklyn in 2006 after my divorce, that area of Brooklyn was really changing, and it didn't change all the way. Mm-hmm. It was very creative, very energetic. It was vibrant. It was diverse. It was dope. And that's an area that used to be the hood. And when I could have bought brownstones for $200,000, then they were probably around $800,000. Now they are $4 or $5 million, And so, I didn't see the value of the neighborhood then. So part of the reason why I'm so passionate about the education part is even though things could seem out of reach for a lot of people in certain markets, I'm passionate about making sure that people know the game. Like, you don't have to be a developer. Yeah. You could work in IT and still work in development. You can be in marketing. You can be
1,000 jobs in development.
Yeah, you don't. And that's what I said. Most people think it's construction workers. No. By the time you see the construction worker, that's already 5, 10, maybe 20 years of planning before ground was even broken. So, but even that, right? The trades, right? AI can't replace HVAC and electric and plumbing and those skilled trades that people might have shied away from, have all over this country. Yeah. You go to construction sites and a lot of those folks ICE is looking for right now.
But they can't hire people to replace them either because you don't have enough people who know.
So you need that. And so it's I don't know. I'm saying a lot of stuff.
It's okay. We'll chop it up. Rapid fire questions. So we appreciate, just giving us a chance to listen to your thought process and your mindset. And I think this is a really good, we are the City Sculptors Podcast. So we believe everybody, no matter from kindergarten all the way to 99, 110, if you're lucky. You can sculpt your city to be whatever you want it to be. We had our mayor pro tem on. She's like, I tell little kids, just pick up the trash off the ground.
Yep.
And that's sculpting your city.
So yesterday, I'm walking from the chiropractor's office, and a young lady comes out of Dunkin' Donuts, has her drink, takes the straw cover off and throws it on the ground. I'm like, excuse me, you dropped something. That's how she looked at me. Yeah. And that's a city sculptor moment, right? You're choosing consciously or unconsciously in a lot of cases, like with New Yorkers that just throw trash out the window of their car, which drives me, like, I've chased cars, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, but so, yeah, I think anybody can participate, and even coming here for, the groundbreaking for you guys' development, talking to your dad about how do we put in place like the education program so that young people can grow up in the city knowing that they don't have to just see a sign go up as they drive by and go, oh, something's happening, but that's somebody else is doing it.
Yeah.
But that they can actually be a part of that.
That they can be a part of. Yeah. Okay. 2 rapid fire questions. A book or podcast that changed your perspective on business or community?
A book or a podcast? That changed my perspective. Definitely not a podcast. I can't think of a podcast. A book?
It's the City Sculptors Podcast.
Oh,
I'm just playing.
I'd say no. A book everybody should read. The Color of Law.
Okay. I've heard that.
Richard Rothstein, yeah. And that's basically the book on how the United States government created ghettos.
Okay.
How public policy, federal policy, created the communities that we live in. And also it talks about how, the wealth gap is created in real estate specifically through the GI Bill, but it'll go back to what, after the New Deal, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and like all that history of how we got here that most people don't know and just think it's their birthright to be born in the hood and you're going to live and die in environments that have been underfunded. They don't realize the
history.
Yeah, we see it play out now. We're seeing what's happening politically, choices that are made that says, I don't want you to win, so I'm going to take this from you. That kind of thinking from the federal government, yeah.
Okay. And we do have Yoba Development, but if your life's mission were a building, what would you name it?
You just answered it. You said it. Yoba Development. Our slogan is builder of people, places, and things.
Okay.
This is not a hobby. This is destiny. This is the work. I tried to do my first actual development deal when I was 17 years old. I tried to get a BMX track built in Central Park. And I met with the Parks Department, and I had a budget, and I knew how much land. I didn't know it was called development. I just knew that as a kid who raced BMX bikes, I shouldn't have to ride my bike over the George Washington Bridge and go to New Jersey to race, and there was nothing in New York City. So I've always been a builder. I've been working with the babies since I was a baby.
Yeah.
So I've always been in community. I've always been teaching. I've always been doing these things. It's just that when you become an actor and people see a collection of characters that you've portrayed, they think that's who you are. But know and understand that this work in community goes back over 40 years.
Let the people know. And on that note, I do want to thank you for coming on the City Sculptors Podcast.
Love the title.
Thank you. And we will see you next time. Thank you for watching this episode of the City Sculptors. If you've ever thought about how our city shaped or thinking about a new career path, this podcast is for you. We upload every second and fourth Monday. I'm your host, Alexis Williams, and this is the City Sculptors Podcast.